So this entire evening was fun, and this is a lesson that you guys should take home with you guys for the rest of your lives. Don't be afraid to Instagram and DM your idols. Because what happened was that Jen made a post and tagged something along the lines like, with you and your Emerson College friends, and it was like, Emerson College alum, Emerson College, and I was like, as an Emerson student should, I was hungry for representation. I was like, oh my god, Jen, did you go to Emerson? Do you go to Emerson? And she was like, yes! And I was like, yeah! And basically, all the Jenga blocks just kept falling into place, and here we are today. So DM people, it's worth it. So you might know Jen for her work from a little game called Overwatch. Can I hear a woo-woo for Overwatch? Mercy made, by the way. Yeah. And it is just my absolute and distinct and great honor to welcome her back to where it all started from, Emerson College. Can I hear a woo for Emerson? We'll work on that. Anyways, live from the Bill Bordy Theater at 216 Tremont Street in Boston, Massachusetts, we have Jen Cohn! There you go.
Wow, that was such a good intro. That was so nice. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for coming out. I heard that you're in the middle of finals, and so thank you. I really appreciate you stepping aside and coming and saying hello. And thank you, Dr. Payne, and thank you, School of Communications, and thank you, Emerson Esports, and thank you, Eric, for DMing me. And because I'm really very excited and honored to be here. That was so nice that you guys got in touch. When I went to Emerson College, it was like 4 or 5 dilapidated brownstones over on Beacon Street, and there was a crumbling building on the flats of Beacon Hill called the Rimmer Street Building, where the actors went to go study, and there was a church that was part-time rented, and there were 3 old haunted dorms. That's what it was like. So things have changed a little bit, to say the least. While I was here, there was a brief discussion of moving the school to Lawrence, Massachusetts, which was like the most horrible idea ever thought of, and thankfully that was scrapped. And then they bought the Majestic Theater, and they bought the Little Building, and that was during my time in this school. So I got to perform in the Majestic, and it was so exciting. I got to do a production of Museum by Tina Howe, and I think it was the first straight play in the theater, so it was very exciting. But to see how much the school has changed and grown and how extraordinary it is now is just mind-blowing. But what makes me even happier is to see how much it hasn't changed, and that so many of the same kinds of students who were attracted to this school when I was a student here are still attracted to this school. And I remember the first time that I came, when I had just been accepted, and I came up to look at the school, and back then we all would congregate at the wall, which was it was a stoop at 130 Beacon Street in Berkeley, and just everyone sat there and waited around looking for each other. So I remember walking up, and I just saw a sea of black-clad, chain-smoking, wannabe existentialists with cool haircuts, and I was like, dude, I'm home! I'm home! I'm here! So it's good to be home. It's so nice to see everybody's here. Hold on a second. Where am I? Okay. For me, it was a school like no one else had ever known. I mean, I had experiences at college that none of my friends did, and no one could even speak to. My freshman acting class was taught by an incredible, charismatic cult leader of a teacher who was named Richard Toma, may he rest in peace. In his 8 a.m. class, we would journal, and then cry, and then physicalize whatever the current events of the day were, and then go rub up on each other. My parents once came to watch my class with Richard after hearing me rave about it, semi-affectionately, and they started calling it Rolling and Fucking 101. That was their name for my Then I took theater history with a professor, Tim House, who I loved, and in his class, we would all smoke cigarettes in rotation, 2 at a time, waiting for the others to stop. I got heavily into Martin Buber while taking philosophy from Professor Ted Romberg, who was amazing and was friends with Martin Luther King. I got crazy for Dada and Surrealism while taking a class with Harvard STEAM artist Joan Brigham, who was a guest teacher that year. I learned to warm up my voice and my body in the Majestic Theater with Shakespearean genius Kristen Linklater. I did an avant-garde Holocaust play with celebrated Czech director Jonas Vajkes a year after the Berlin Wall fell. I found out that Bill Clinton was elected to the presidency while swinging from a pillar and dancing to the Beastie Boys during a tech rehearsal for The Miser. And I did my only nude scene ever in my career in a play here with my best male friend in the scene naked too. And both of our sets of parents threatened to buy out all of the tickets so no one would ever be able to come. As I said, I was learning things nobody else was learning. And the friends that I was meeting, they were just the most incredible, smart, funny, diverse, talented crowd. They were the kind of people that I had never met en masse before. Actors, filmmakers, writers, singers, dancers, lighting designers, producers, marketing majors. I mean, Emerson was where I found all of my people, my creative army, my tribe. I started collaborating with my Emerson friends while I was in college, and I have never stopped. They have always been my greatest champions and my most constructive critics. I was a BFA acting major, if you couldn't tell, all the plays that I mentioned that I said I did. And from looking at me, you can also tell that I was never exactly an ingenue. Being dark and schnozzy and flat-chested meant that you didn't get a certain kind of role. So it limited what my options were, but I had presence and I loved playing characters. So I kept on getting cast as divas and getting cast as grand dames, and I would ordinarily have to adjust my voice in order to play them. I got my first ever voiceover job during my senior year of college. I was doing murder mystery dinner theater on the weekends. Mystery Cafe, who's also owned by an Emerson alumni. And one of the other actors from one of the shows was somehow involved with a bank, and I got hired to do a commercial for a regional bank here in Boston, and I loved it. It was really fun, and it's fast, and it paid a lot more than a night doing Mystery Cafe. But then when I moved to New York and I started my acting career, I did about 7,000 really terrible off-Broadway plays and independent films, and they were terrible. And the only good thing that would come out of these bad shows was that I kept on having producers come up to me afterward and ask me if I was interested in doing voiceovers. Those producers and friends of mine from Emerson were my first experiences getting work as a voiceover actress. I had a friend who was an animator, and I would do his projects. I had another friend who was producing commercials, and I would do his projects, and then these producers would come to the shows. Hold on, where am I going now? Okay, there we go. So then, once that all started and I got into it, I decided that was the thing I would pursue. And I got a terrible, terrible agent, and then I got a just single terrible agent, and then an okay agent, and then a decent agent, and then a good agent, and then finally a great agent, and then my career started actually rolling. My first big animated voiceover was for Ursa in Avatar: The Last Airbender. That was the first animated thing. I got to be directed by legendary voice director Andrea Romano for that. I didn't know how lucky I was to work. Yeah, no, she's the baddest. She's so good. And I also had no idea what kind of staying power this gig would have. I mean, it was exciting for me because it was the first, but I didn't realize that it would become the important piece of culture that it is to so many people who grew up watching it. So I was lucky with that. Where am I going? I had paper, but we maybe accidentally mixed up the spacing, so I thought I knew where I was. Okay, sorry. Here we go. So then, 10 years later, I got a call from my agents that there was a script for a project that was then codenamed Prometheus, but was actually Overwatch. And I had a character who had a name, I don't remember what it was, but it wasn't Farah. And the description of the character was that she was Egyptian, she was an offense player, she was aggressive, there were a bunch of words that made me think that she was a villain. So I did this very villainous Farah audition that I sent in. And I actually, because I've just told this story recently, I was looking up what the lines were that I did for Farah, and they were, hold on, I found them. Yeah, it was so funny. Where was it? Oh my God, guys, I'm sorry about this. This was what? Okay. I never lose my prey once it's in my sights. Leave this to a professional. It was a little different, right? Like, it wasn't exactly right. So, I know, right? So I sent in this audition, and then I promptly forgot about it, because when you do voiceovers for a living, you do a lot of auditions, and you have to just forget. Like, you on purpose forget what you've auditioned for, you don't attach, and then you just go on with your day. So I do the audition. 6 months later, I get a phone call from my agent. I have booked this game called Overwatch. I am a character named Farah, and I have a session on my birthday. And so I said, oh, okay, great. I said, but you know what? I never auditioned for anything called Overwatch. I never auditioned for Farah, so I mean, I think it's a mistake. Like, that's not my gig. And she said, no, it's your gig. Go ahead, go do it. So I go to the studio on my birthday, and I have in my earphones Jeff Kaplan and Michael Chu and Andrea Toyas, and who is also the voice director at Blizzard. And I say to all of them, guys, look, okay, this is really embarrassing. You made a mistake. It's a different Jen Cohn. Like, there must be some Jen Cohn, because Jen Cohn is the John Smith of Jewish girls. There must be some Jen Cohn who's a voiceover actress in LA, and you meant to book her, and I'm the accidental Jen Cohn booking. And they all start laughing. And they're like, no, it's you, it's definitely you. And they play me this villain Farah. And they say, this is the character. And I said, oh, that thing. Oh, I remember that, of course. And they said, but she isn't a villain. She is, think of her as the Captain America of the game. She's Captain America. And I said, okay. And that was the day that we found the voice. And that story always reminds me of when I was a sophomore and I had to declare what track I was going for my major, and I wanted to be a BFA acting student. My then advisor, Kathleen Patrick, who's now Kathleen Patrick Donahue, is still here. Kathleen Patrick sat me down and said to me, Jen, you are like a really good piece of bread with too much butter on it. We need to scrape some of the butter off of you so you can just be that great piece of bread. It was a great line, it's terrific. So I always think when Andrea Toyas hired me to be Farah, she was just scraping the butter off of the bread and said, like, I can hear under this villain, there's this like soulfulness, there must be something, because if there's anyone who isn't buttery, it's Farah. She is not a buttery girl. So funny. Where was I going? I am so proud of my work and everyone's work in Overwatch. I'm really just overwhelmed by how it has taken off in the world. And to be part of a game that has gotten this big is overwhelming and exciting, but to be in a game that promotes tolerance and diversity, and that This is what we were talking about earlier, exactly. See, I told you I said this. That includes all races and ages and sexes and sexual orientations, where every body type is included and reaffirms that everyone can be a hero. Makes me feel like I'm doing something much more important in the world than just doing a voice in a game. Particularly at politically divisive times like this, I think it is extremely important to model that kind of inclusion and to create a sphere and a world and an environment where everyone feels safe and everyone sees themselves. I keep imagining the children and the young people in places where they might live in a xenophobic family, or they might live in a very limited region where they don't have access to everyone. And by playing a game like Overwatch and developing relationships with each of these characters and having feelings for all of them, it would breed tolerance. It would breed an understanding. I think that it creates a more tolerant person if you can relate to the different people. So I love that about this game, and it makes me proud. Wow. Where is it? Eric, this is why I needed this space.
No. Jen gave me the best Brooklyn cop scolding of my life.
I did, I anticipate he's so dear. Hold on a second. So then, okay. There we go. And as for Farah, I love Farah. She is so good and so inspiring. She is a character whose prime motivation is to do good and do justice, righteousness. She's a woman with mom issues who isn't limited by them, which is so refreshing. She has a healthy body image. It's finally a female hero, a female heroine, who isn't in like a catsuit with cleavage falling out. It's nice to see a female character in armor who is strong. I love modeling that for women everywhere, and I'm really happy I get to voice that character. But it made me think about what else am I modeling and what else have I learned, and what did I learn at Emerson? At Emerson, I learned the importance of hustling. Eric is a pro. Eric hustled to get me here. That was so good. The importance of being enterprising and figuring out how exactly to get things done. I learned not to be a purist and how to do a little bit of everything. To read, to write, to direct, to produce, to not be afraid to try, and to not be afraid to fail, which really is a lesson that I need to impart later, but don't be afraid of failure. Just keep throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. You have to try everything, and you're in a school with such incredible opportunities and such outrageous facilities to try everything. So if there's anything that turns you on even a little bit and you're slightly reluctant to try it, let it go. Like, do it. Try it. While you're here, try everything, because you have no idea how that will inform what your next choices are in your career. You have to try them all. I learned here about finding your tribe. All these years later, most of my best friends in the world are my Emerson friends. A couple of my dearest friends are people who I met on the freshman orientation bus. This is a long time ago. All of them have had interesting lives and fascinating careers. Most of them did not have careers in whatever their majors were. My friends are writers and directors and producers, animators, performers, comedians, singers, publicists, branding experts, teachers and professors. One is a boutique owner and another is a perfumer. We all still collaborate. I voice their projects. I help one buy for her store. We interview each other for our podcasts. We read each other's writing projects. We always ask for each other's opinions. I have spoken to their students. And that friend who I was naked with in the play, he introduced me to my husband. So If I could tell you something. Oh, and then there was one more. And Kristen Linkletter used to say this when I studied with her here. She would tell you, when your opportunity comes, just be ready. So just think about doing your thing and doing what you do and making sure your doors are open. So when something happens, you are just ready. But my advice that I learned, not in Emerson, that I would say is, hold on. All right, be flexible. Nothing in life is going to go exactly the way that you think that it will. Nothing. You have to know how to improvise and get comfortable with it. Work toward your goals, but do not sweat it if things go sideways. Everything has a weird way of working out. And like I was saying before, don't worry if it's screwing up. The only thing that happens if you screwed up is means that you tried. You know, I used to believe that if I did the wrong thing, if I made the wrong step, if I made the wrong phone call, if I said the wrong thing, that everything would just fall apart, my career would be over, and nothing would work out. And someone very smart, who's sitting here looking at me right now, said to me, you can never treat your career like a delicate egg, that if you drop it, it will break and crack. Your career is not an egg. Your career is a Tonka truck. Your career has to be able to be smashed into walls and crashed into things and dinged and dented and scratched, and know that you will not break, your career will not break, that you can withstand all of it. So trust yourself and know that you can get dinged and just crash yourself into the wall and don't worry about it. Very good advice. Say yes to everything. Again, it's the same thing. Just keep throwing shit at the wall. You have to do it. Which leads to this important lesson. No never means no, with the exception of matters involving physical consent. Other than consent. Consent means no. However, other than consent, when someone says no to you, it never really means no. It just means that they don't understand, or that they can't help, or that they don't know how to help you or to do the thing that you want to do. That's all it means. Know that there is always a way to get your thing done. You just have to figure out how to do it. And it might be the unorthodox way, and it might be an unusual way, and it might be a path untrod, but know that you can do it. And if they say no, that isn't the final word. When I decided I wanted to focus on doing animation and on doing video games as a New Yorker, I would go and have meetings with people and say, this is what I want to do. And if I tell you to a man, every meeting I had, I was told that's impossible from New York. Jen, you'll have to move to LA, you can't be a voiceover artist doing cartoons and animation and games from New York, can't happen. Again and again and again. Very important agents, very important casting people, they kept on saying it. So what I learned was that none of them were going to be able to figure out how I could do that. And so what did I do? I did what I learned how to do at Emerson. I started hustling. I started talking to people. I started talking to friends. I started sending stuff out. I was sending out tapes. I was calling anyone I knew who knew anyone. I was showing up at parties. I was doing anything to make my own connections. And if I tell you that that hustling got me, I don't know, my first maybe 5 jobs, and suddenly established me as the New York point person for voiceover stuff, and no one would have been able to do that for me. The only reason that it happened is because I hustled. So just know, if you want to do it, there is always a way to figure out how to do it. Then, finally, you know what? I think I'm going to go to the last one. And finally, it is so nice to be in a room full of people who've all taken Intro to Speech. So my final point is, men, women, no glottal fry. Kill the glottal. Vocal fry is like the bane of our existence. So no glottal fry ever. All right? Thank you so much for having me.
Wow. So, with that, we're going to start our Q&A. I have a few questions for you. If you answer them wrong, we'll pull trap door over my cat. Oh yeah, sure. So I wrote a bunch of Q&A questions. A lot of them you actually answered spectacularly in your freaking amazing talk. Can we just hear another round of applause for Jen? But I just want to ask you two questions to get it rolling. Some appetizers. Your water, yeah. Your water. All right. So video games, and especially Overwatch, have a specifically intense global sense of community. What has it been like getting to know this really super passionate audience?
It feels so lucky. I'm so grateful. It's extraordinary. And the fact that it's so global is really, I don't know. I've never had an experience like I've had with this game. I just got back from the Philippines, and I brought my mother. My mother came as my assistant, and she spent the entire time going, oh my God, if you had told me that it was like this, I wouldn't have believed you. I wouldn't have believed that this is how it is for you. I had no idea this is what it is. The whole time, and just muttering this under her breath. It's been crazy. So very grateful, and it's been really cool.
I'm sure you never expected in your lifetime that you would have so many 12 through 17-year-old boys tripping over themselves.
I'm so hot with the bar mitzvah crew. You
Bar mitzvah crew.
Yes.
So Farah is this unapologetically powerful character. Everything from her design to the character her voice embodies. It's all about domination, justice, and conviction. So when you embody her in your work, kind of what experiences and figures do you draw from?
It's funny, I go inward with her. Like Kathleen Patrick Donahue said, it's just, you have to take all the butter off when you're Farah. It's very sincere. I have to stand very straight. I have Farah posture. And some voiceover actors like to sit when they work. I am not a person who sits, I stand and deliver. So I have very specific, shoulders a certain way and stand and, everything tightened up. So I take it there, I take it somewhere physical, and then I go very internal.
I think that's such a cool thing too, because I feel like when we have a vision of voiceover work, we always think it's in a chair, surrounded by mics, and it's very inactive, but it's so physical. I mean, you really gotta pull some strings and make those noises.
Yes.
Farah falling off the map. That's a lot. So the Overwatch cast in particular has such an amazing chemistry. It is so much fun to see you through vlogs and Instagram posts, all of you guys just interacting and having so much chemistry. Such good chemistry. Probably the best I've seen of any voiceover cast in video games or even just media in general. So what has it been like getting to know this family despite you guys being kind of almost geographically disjointed?
It has been more like being in a film or a play than any game I've ever been a part of. I mean, the way it works with gaming is you're never in a booth with anyone else in your game. You might not know anyone in your game. When I've done the Old Republic, I know people because we'll pass each other. One will be coming into their session as I'm leaving my session. But that's maybe 2 or 3 people. I don't know anyone in the game. And there isn't that kind of camaraderie. With this game, everyone has hit it off in such a big way. Everyone reached out to each other when a new character is announced. Everyone goes crazy and finds them on social media. I was just asked before when I was being interviewed about how often I see everyone, and I realized as I was listing it, I was like, oh, that's right. So I was texting with Anjali and Carolina yesterday, and I went and saw Sarah's show last week, and we all see each other. I just saw Lucy last weekend. It's really nice. It's very special. I was just texting with Chloe. It's cool. It's cool, and we all really are friends. So that's lucky and really unusual. And everyone's very different, but everybody is very good-hearted and everybody really is rooting for everyone else. And I guess just we're all in this together. We're all enjoying this so much.
What a perk, am I right? Right. So just a final formal Q&A question, and one of my favorite things that you said to me in our interaction was like, in order to be a video game voice or a voice actor in general, you gotta be a damn good actor.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, so, you know, as a performer, what are some ways in which your game voiceover work is like similar or different from other work that you've done?
Honestly, I probably have done better acting in some of the video games or some of the animation stuff, mostly video games that I've done, than I ever got the opportunity to do in a film or on stage. I think that there's something very freeing about being alone in a booth with no one watching you and having to get deep into this character, particularly when it's someone who you've been doing for a long time and you have a long relationship with, and when they're given something really juicy to go through and some juicy scene or lines. It is so real and so terrific. I mean, you can give yourself chills, you can make your own hairs stand up on your arms when you're really getting into that character. Yeah, but you have to be good. You have to really be able to tap into your own emotional stores to get those reactions and to get that kind of verb in the portrayal.
All right, so that does it for the formal Q&A. All right, let's give Jen a hand.
So I could stand up here and say, what should I do if I want to be a voice actor? But I thought of something a little better, because this is going to be interesting, I hope.
Okay.
So you mentioned a lot of the community around Overwatch and all the other, like the rest of the cast. I think that's really cool. Are there any crazy, silly, or even just fun stories that you know about the other cast members that you don't think a lot of the general public or the people who play Overwatch know? Is there anything that you know specifically any of the other voice actors have done, or any good stories about them that you might want to share?
Yes, I know them. No, I don't think I can. I'm trying to think. What can I tell that's a funny or silly that I can share?
Tell a story about your own experience with them, because you guys, it's just so much fun watching you guys, and I just
Oh, it's so much fun.
so much fun, yeah.
Super silly.
Yeah. What's silly and fun?
Silly fun. Really the funniest one, the craziest person is Sar, Doomfist. That guy is unbelievable. That guy is like a volcano. And he's a really extraordinary actor, but in person, he's just electrified. And there was a dinner once after BlizzCon where Sar went through, he performed this ancient Greek, getting to the top of a mountain ritual, demonstrating the holy tool, and started doing like he was playing a video game. It was outrageous. He was unbelievable. The holy tool at the end. That was really good. What's a great crazy story?
You got to the Philippines. That's pretty bad.
Oh my God, it was bananas. It was totally bananas. We had a stalker in the Philippines. Yes, stalker. And so whenever any of the other people would post where they were on the beach, this guy would go try to find us and try to hunt us down. It was crazy. It was a little strange. But what's a funny? I'm sorry, I'm tired. What's a funny, good story with them? Oh, boy. Well, it wound up being a funny, happy ending at the end. So we wound up in this terrible, terrible hotel in the Philippines. Absolutely terrible, on this island, Boracay. But yeah, I know, but they should have sent us somewhere beautiful, and they sent us this terrible hotel. And we wake up the next morning, and Anjali has had some kind of allergic reaction to something in the hotel, and her eye has swelled up like a baseball. And she, after we go back to the States, has an on-camera job, like soon after. So she's like really concerned what's gonna happen. So we say we have to go to a clinic. And so we go to this very frightening clinic. And so so I go with Anjali at 7 o'clock in the morning to the clinic. And we sit down and Anjali starts asking them, so what exactly is the treatment plan? And this woman gives this completely fakakta treatment plan that involves 14 days of a drug and something else and a shot somewhere. And Anjali, both of her parents are doctors. So Anjali is sitting there just listening and nodding as this woman is going through this ridiculous treatment plan. And she just goes, no, this is what we'll be doing. And she proceeds to name the string of drugs that she will be getting and exactly what she needs and what dosage and where she's getting a shot and what, and the woman just nods and listens. Oh, okay. And so Anjali was like, she just diagnosed herself. And then, it was great. Meanwhile, because of Anjali's self-diagnosis and her self-treatment, she was fine, like within a day. Everything was fine. Which was right, exactly. So she wound up being A-okay within a day. But it was crazy. And luckily, after that, they moved us to a beautiful hotel with no terrible allergens. So there was a happy ending to the story because her eye came back too. Crazy. Oh, she was amazing. She was so tough. It was really good.
Who is Anjali in the game?
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm assuming everyone knows Symmetra.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
I
I didn't know.
I'm so sorry. I'm assuming, oh my God, that's terrible of me. I'm sorry. I'm assuming, okay. Anjali is Symmetra. Lucy is Mercy. Sar is Doomfist. Who else? Carolina is Sombra. Chloe is Widowmaker. Anna is played by Aisha. Who else is it? Johnny. What?
Fedor is there, right?
Yeah, oh my God, Theo, who is such a doll. Theo is Zenyatta, and so Theo was with us there too. That's terrible, guys. I'm assuming that you know this. I'm sorry I assumed that.
No worries, I just
Yeah.
wanted to know who was telling the doctor what's what.
Yes,
It's that vision.
Symmetra. So, and she's quite, yeah.
That checks out.
Yeah.
My question is not serious at all. I was wondering if we could get you to do an impression of your second favorite non-far character.
My second
Your
favorite.
non-far
My
character.
second favorite
Like, that's
non-far
I wanna hear
character.
you do it.
Sure. Okay.
Whoever it might be.
Okay. Hold on. I gotta think for a second.
You do Mercy just to like get loose, just to like get on Lucy's nerves.
So funny.
Step into my parlor, said the spider to the fly.
Along those same lines, I was going to ask, do you and the other voice actors ever attempt to say other characters' lines, say other characters' lines using your character's voice? And B, do you ever try to say their lines like you just did in a really good interpretation of your own? And who does the best version of that?
Well, obviously I do. I mean, my God, come on. Come on.
I mean, other than you.
Everybody's really good. Everybody's really good at this. So everybody's good at doing each other's lines. That we all have played around and done each other's lines. It's always very fun to hear you do it. I'm trying to think which other ones are good. I always love Hack the Planet. That's a fun one. And then my newest one was Experience Tranquility. That's a new thing. So yeah.
Thank you.
You can't take back our magic. You can't take back our magic.
So being a successful woman in what feels like such a generally like male-dominated field, like what is your piece of advice for women who like will feel like halted or feel like they need to keep persisting and keep working towards success?
In voiceover or in everything?
Just
you're coming of age in a fantastic moment to be a woman in the entertainment industry in particular. I think that the Me Too moment has really changed the way that women are being dealt with. Certainly as you're coming in and coming up, I think that there'll be a level of carefulness that will be new, which is great. So I think that you can stand a little bit more comfortably knowing that you'll get to avoid that level of hazing, which is great. I think that you just persist. I think you don't get hard. Don't get hard. Stay soft. Stay vulnerable. Be willing to feel things and keep going forward. And just know that everyone is going through exactly what you're going through. It's just that boys sometimes act like bigger dicks while they're going through it. So that's really. I mean, everyone is going through exactly the same things. And for me, a lesson that I'm learning, I keep relearning, is the more you can be just direct and clear and succinct about what you want and what you're doing, both for yourself and in how you're communicating with people, and wipe out any clouding of communication or clouding of intention for them and for yourself, the better. Because they're just feeling the sense of worthiness of like, I'm here just like everybody else is here, and of course I should get mine if I work hard. I would definitely say go for that. And go for it. You've got the best education. Coming out of the greatest school. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Of course.
Hi.
Hi.
So my question is, what is the most difficult line that you've had to say as Farah? Because we know that there's a lot of them in the game, and there's a lot that, probably have yet to be used. So what is the most difficult line, sound, emotion that you bring out as Farah?
Well, the hardest part is always the way that they schedule a voiceover session is they save the last like 8 minutes for all of the falling off the map and what so that's really the most strenuous, most taxing, and what's fascinating is the most specific.
Yeah.
Because here you are, you're screaming, but you have to be thinking about some very specific way to be screaming your guts out, and if you don't do it right, you have to do it again. So that's sort of the blowout moment, but it's really challenging and difficult to sort of get right into the sweet spot and deliver exactly how hard is the impact? How hard is the impact? How sharp is that? That's the hardest part, I would say.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sure.
So I was just wondering if your process and going about voicing video game characters is different than how you go voicing a cartoon or being in a play or just doing social community stuff, or not a scene group basically.
Totally different. Oh my God, it's so different. It's so different. Well, with video games, they don't send you any scripts in advance. So, but because they have to protect it, because they want to make sure that nothing leaks out. So you are handed the script as you arrive in the studio. And you aren't given a full script, you're only given your lines. And only maybe half the time are you told exactly what you're responding to. So you have to have a very engaged dialogue with your director as you're doing the session and say, okay, what am I responding to? Wait, what did the person say before me? And then they can say the lines so you know who you're speaking back to. And often you have to ask context. You've got to be like, okay, what's going on here? And I just had a session that I was called in for one job, one character, where totally, to my surprise, they handed me a 30-page script of another character that I'm like, who is this? Who's this character? And they're like, no, we just need you to do it, now, and it's important. And we had to find a voice and figure it out, and we had to do it in this very tiny amount of time. That is very different from a cartoon where they'll send you the script in advance, and sometimes you're in a room with everyone and playing off each other, or sometimes you're alone, but at least you've had the script so you have a sense of what it is, and if you've had questions, you know what they are coming in. And then with a play, it's totally collaborative. A film is a little bit like a cartoon in that you get your sides, you get your script, and then you get what sides you're going to be shooting the next day. You work on it and make sure you know it all the night before, and then you come in and sort of work it out with the director and the other actors, really the director. But with a play, it's a fully collaborative effort from the ground up, from the reading on, and it's a much longer process. The shortest process is video games. That's like, do it now, be great, right this second, very emotional, now. So yeah, it's challenging. You got it, sure. Hi.
So I started playing Overwatch actually at the beginning of the school year because I'm a freshman. And my little brother, it's all he plays, it's all he ever does. And like he doesn't talk to me, and so like that's how he doesn't talk to anyone, all he does is play Overwatch. And so that's how I like hang out with him now, is I play Overwatch with him. So like, how does it feel to be like working on something that like brings people together like this?
That I know couples who got together from Overwatch. I keep on meeting this. Best friends, couples, people across the world. Oh my God, meet my girlfriend who's in Italy. We met because we play Overwatch. Oh, she's farming. I was watching her being Farah, and then I'm farming too. And it's amazing. That part of it. I can't get over the global part of that. The fact that you can be hanging out with people and making friends with people all over the world. That's outrageous. It's a little weird to me because I'm old, and like it's a little strange, the idea that that's how you would make friends and catch up with people and see people. I keep hearing that, and I keep meeting like parents and children, like a father-son or a father-daughter, and that's how they bond. Like they play Overwatch together. That's what they do. So I think it's cool. I love having a part in it, and I feel good about what I'm saying when I'm in it, but it's really a wild thing. How old is your brother?
He's 14.
Wow.
Yeah.
Understood. So funny. Well, you know what? It's nice that there's a place where you're still bonding with him, while he's in this.
Yeah, no.
He's probably not talking to your parents, so
I
he's...
tried to call, I called home like yesterday, and I was like, can I talk to Peyton? And they're like, no, I'm not doing
No.
what do you think he's doing? I'm like, okay.
That's so funny.
Thank you.
My pleasure, sure.
So you're going to the last Q&A, Mr. Lucio, okay? I've got a lot of surprises to wrap up this crazy evening, so get ready.
Nice. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
So, I had a question about your voice acting sessions especially.
Sure.
In my conversations with other voice actors, whether in gaming or animation and conventions and the like, I have heard some pretty crazy stories about voice acting sessions and how long or how arduous some of them can be. I won't give any examples, but a few voice actors I've spoken to have expressed some very stressful situations in the past. What would you say is the longest or the most retakes required, or just the most painful voice acting session you've had to go through as far as that goes?
I can't include any video game sessions as my most painful that way. That I can't, because there have been some that have gone long. They have to be limited to 4 hours. They're 4 hours long. But the most painful, horrible can be when you're doing a commercial and all of the advertising people think that it's brain surgery and the patient is going to die on the table if you don't get it right, right that minute, right that second. And there are 10 people in the studio, and there will be the creatives and the team, and then the producers, and then the people from the company who's paying for it, and then there's the engineer, so there'll be all of these opinions, and they're all talking, and all of them are afraid that they're going to lose their job if something happens badly on this session. And so you could feel the stress, like you could feel the tension. They're all just so sick, and you're in the booth, and what they can do is turn off the audio. So if you do a take, and they'll go, okay, go, just hold on a second, and then silence, and you see them all fighting or yelling. That is excruciating. So that's definitely the most painful aspect. At this point, I've gotten really good at handling those situations. I sort of Jedi mind trick everyone. I'm like, this is the take you want. This is the take you want. And it usually works, and they'll go, oh, that was the take I wanted. I'm like, right, that's the take. But it took a while to learn how to Jedi mind trick them into that, and also not to get freaked out by the stress in the room. Because I remember in the beginning of my career, the first couple of times I found myself in one of those sessions, I would like cry. I would have to go to the bathroom and cry because I was like, oh my God, my career is over. I'm a delicate egg. Oh my God, like freaking out. And your career is not over. You're not a delicate egg. It's fine. But that's the worst, definitely.
Thank you.
No problem. Sure.
So Farrah's definitely a really cool character. She was the first person I played in the beta for Overwatch before it came out, and she was like right off the bat my favorite, from like the costume to the tattoos, awesome.
Yay!
But so my biggest question is, because before I played Overwatch when I was a little kid, I played a game called Team Fortress 2, and my favorite character from that game used to play the game himself in character and mess with people in game. And I want to know if you've ever done that as Farrah. Have you ever called out voice lines? Have you ever trash talked somebody in this persona?
That would be so much fun! I would love to do that! That would be so much fun! I have to do that! Oh my God, like, but you know what, but I would have to do it with someone. I'm a really bad player. I'm terrible. I'm so bad. But I'd have to be with someone who's like a great Farah main. Like you know what, like I befriended Valkia. Do you know? I befriended him at BlizzCon. He's doll face. He's such a sweetie. And it would be great, like if he'd be playing and then I could a rocket jump. That sounds dangerous. And I can't look at wow. That would be super fun. That would be great.
That was a good question. Thank you.
No problem, sure.